Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are calling in from. I would like to formally welcome all of you to the April 24th, 2020 Stagen Community Forum. I'm really excited about today's gathering. We started this series, as most of you know, grounded in the Peter Kastenbaum Fast Company interview that was titled, "Do You Have the Will to Lead?" And I really want to emphasize a word in that title. Do you have the will to lead? And we have been exploring the dimensions of leadership together. And I want to invite you to consider the word will, this idea of the fortitude, the energy, the courage. That word has quite a bit of meaning to it. And I would really just ask us all to consider what that means. Not just will you lead, but do you have the will to lead? And I want to acknowledge the former members of our community who have been offering the first four report from the fields. Andy Eby, who's actually on the call today. Thank you, Andy. Sean McGinnis, Vid Deva, who's also on the call today, and Dave Petnaik from last week, who's also on today's call. And I'm confident that with Kerry today, in just a few minutes, you're going to have the opportunity to really experience her humanity and the role that humanity has played in her leading her team over the past few weeks in particular through a very difficult period of time. And so as a way to frame up for Kerry, I want to go back to this big idea that we've been exploring as we think about the environment around us, the environment that in many ways is not under our control. So it's really, for a leader, it's really not what happens out in the marketplace, out in the world, but rather how we relate to what happens. This idea of relating, shaping and being shaped by our relationship to the external environment and our relationship to our own internal environment. And the frame I want to introduce is going back to where Andy Eby kicked us off at the beginning of the crisis. And I would suggest that, at least for me, and I think for most people that I'm talking to, we felt unsettled for several weeks at the beginning of this crisis. We were unsettled. And what I'm noticing is that there's now reports, and I can feel this myself, of a settling. Like, I'm feeling a little bit more settled than I was last week, and I'm feeling a lot more settled than I was a month ago. And so as we move from unsettled to settled and have the opportunity to really ask ourselves this question, what's next? What's next for our leadership? How do we actually continue with Andy's invitation and challenge of #offense? How do we stay on the offense? How do we continue leading forward? But instead of that action being action to act, which was the right move in the beginning of this when we were unsettled, we needed to actually move into unknown territory. But now I would invite all of us to ask this question a little bit differently. What kind of action are we being now called to bring? What kind of action? What is the quality of action? And I would suggest that it's a quality of action that is informed by awareness. And so I'll end with this. There are people who have high awareness and very little action. These are people who are almost paralyzed with what they know. And there's an impotence in that, an inability to act, even though there's lots of awareness. And then there are those people who are willing to act. They're willing to act regardless of having understanding or awareness of the situation. And that can create a lot of distress at a system level or within an organization or within an ecosystem of stakeholders. And the real move here that I believe Carrie Freeman Parsons models is the combination of high awareness and the willingness and the courageousness to act. And that, when comes together, we would call that transformation. This is the journey of transformational leaders. Transformational leaders move towards the heat, the intensity that we're all being forged in right now. However, transformational leaders do that informed by a level of awareness as opposed to just acting for acting's sake. So Andy, thank you for the #offense. And I'm inviting all of us to revisit #offense with a different quality that is informed by the fact that we are now standing on more settled ground as a way to move forward. And a way to move forward how? a way to move forward with vulnerable strength, a paradox with vulnerable strength. Carrie Freeman Parsons, a member since 2018, is the chair of Freeman, and many of you know this is the world's leading live events and brand experience company. Freeman produces more than 15,000 live events annually, including 50% of the largest trade shows in the United States. Kerry is a third-generation leader of a business that was founded in 1927. There is a great responsibility of leading a multi-generational business and recognizing that when she's leading her organization, she's leading an organization that counts its employees, its full-time employees, in the thousands, and its contract employees in the tens of thousands. So there is a tremendous responsibility here, and there's a legacy here. And so with that, I am honored to hand the call over to Carrie Freeman Parsons, who is going to take us into her exploration of vulnerable strength.
Thank you, Rand, and it's a joy to see so many of you on this call. This has become a respite for me, these weekly calls, and thank you, Rand and team, for allowing us this opportunity to get together. So as Rand mentioned, as long as I can remember, the business was the family and the family was the business. It's been kind of the unifying thread for our family for generations. And, we call ourselves a family business, but we actually really, believe that and act that way. So I have been focused the last 10 years on really ensuring that our culture is aligned with what our family believes to be true. And conscious capitalism has definitively helped me through all of that, really becoming very focused on that. And so for the past 10 years, I've really been sort of branded as the keeper of the culture. My brother-in-law was the CEO of the business. I was the keeper of the culture. We worked together that way. And, I've had this opportunity to be branded as the heart of Freeman. So fast forward into what has happened. We saw some fall off in Asia. We have a small presence there. And then in January, but then we really started seeing how quickly that this was coming. And we've been in business 93 years. I've never seen anything. Of course, nobody has seen anything remotely like this. And so as we were seeing our customers cancel their events, et cetera, we knew we were going to have to make some adjustments. And at the time, we had about 5,200 full-time employees. That was really the beginning of March. And what we realized is we were going to need to make our first reduction in force. And of course, we had this whole communication plan. And I remember driving to the office that day, and I was going through all of the talking points in my head because I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to be prepared for this video message that we were going to be delivering, that we were going to be reducing, frankly, about 2,500 jobs. And, and I had it in my head, and I thought, well, the more I practice it, the better equipped I'll be in order for me to deliver this message. And I got to the office and about reviewing my notes, and about 15 minutes before the call, I thought to myself, if I am the heart of the business, how am I supposed to lead this business when my heart is broken? Like how am I supposed to do this? And so we got onto our webinar, and we kind of delivered some of the primary news about what we're doing and why we were doing it. And then it was my turn to speak. And I just got really emotional, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it again. And it, fortunately it wasn't a weep fest or anything, but I was just, my heart was breaking for the fact that not only we were causing this, financial challenge for our people, but that we were breaking up our family, that people who'd worked together for years, people who loved their work, were now, kind of torn away from that. And they'd done nothing wrong. We had done nothing wrong. It just, was what it was. And I worked really hard to not even look at my notes and to just communicate what was on my heart. And I honestly can't tell you what I said. I just shared with them how sad it was, but that it was what we needed to do. We needed to go forward. And after it was over, my door was closed, and I thought, I cannot even believe, I can't believe I that probably wasn't very professional and whatever. And I immediately started getting emails and texts and things like that. And just one of them I'd read, they were so encouraging. But one of them said, we all know you, Kerry, but I know it's impossible for you to know all of us personally in return. However, know this, we can see and feel your love, and it's reciprocated. Everyone was talking about how clear it shined through to us when we needed to hear it the most. And that was really the permission I gave to myself to feel how hard this was, and to really recognize that, and to allow that to speak through my voice as we were going through the coming days. And so, the next couple of weeks, and sharing that vulnerability with our team, and that folks, concerned about me, and how are you doing, and how are you holding up, and all these other types of things, it was beautiful to see how our culture showed up. But unfortunately, the news just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And we had originally thought that the business would come back maybe in the summer. And now, as we all know, it's, the fall, maybe the winter. We're hoping, we have some work other than, we're doing some virtual work, but our primary business, we don't know when it's going to come back. And so it was time for us to do a second round. And this was going to cut deeply. And just, the highlight is that we basically let go 87% of our team. But it's absolutely, necessary. But at this time, it really cut deeply, because we really cut at all levels. I mean, we have people, hundreds of people who've been with us for more than 2, 3, 4 decades, and long-term customer relationships. And this got into the muscle of people who in a million years never dreamed they would be let go or furloughed because of their customer relationships, or because they ran an office or whatever. And so we had and again, did a broadcast. And in that case, I started to feel, I was again sad, but I shared with our team that I'm not forlorn, and I'm also bolstered, and, kind of some of the reasons to believe, and again, shared my heart. But where it really took a kind of a new turn was with our leadership team, because we had a call that afternoon, and I could just see on their faces, it was like looking at this screen, and I just saw the weariness, the pain, the sadness, it was just awful. It was awful for me to look again at these people I loved and seeing how hurt they were. And what occurred to me in that moment is, although I am involved in all these decisions, and I understand the consequence of these decisions, I am personally not delivering these news. I am not letting go of any of my people who are, I don't have direct reports, and I'm letting go. And these are the people who are having conversations with the folks who they loved, their teams, and they were having to address that. So in that call, I was really able to say to them, and again, I got very emotional, and I said, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that you're carrying this weight, and I acknowledge how hard it is, and I can see it in your faces, and it is okay for you to feel it. We're not asking you to soldier through it. We're not asking you, it's not appropriate to think that, oh, well, it's the right thing for the company, so, to rationalize it. We've got to feel it, because if we don't feel it, we're not going to be able to keep moving forward. And the relief that I saw on their faces was palpable, because they knew they were doing the right thing, but it felt so badly, and they needed permission to be able to admit that both of those things were true, and to not armor up, and to be exceptionally vulnerable with each other. So, since that time, we've now been able to move to a place, and as Rand said, we've kind of gone from this unstable place to really putting care and feeding on the forefront, where we are saying to our people, and we're actually in our leadership meetings, we're having coaches come on and talk about the stages of grief and how you deal with teams that are going through various stages of coping, and how do we rebuild a company that is going to look different when we come back. It's not going to go back to the same. And how do we think about that from an emotional perspective? And we're thinking about how we show up for our furloughed team members and how we support them with not just job opportunities that we're seeing and trying to source for them, but also our employee assistance programs. And let's connect on Facebook and admit that we miss each other, and feel this sadness that we have, but also rally around this hope that we have as an organization. And so I have so many examples of how our culture has shown up in beautiful ways over the past 6 weeks, especially the last month. And as Rand was had lots of conversations with Rand over the years, and he's really encouraged me to explore the depth of feeling in myself and be authentic about showing that. And that means allowing myself to be sad and allowing myself to be angry, but not just allowing it, but to kind of rest in it for a moment, and then to consider how that's going to be expressed going forward. And then, Corey, who's always encouraging us to lead with love, what I've just really learned in these past few weeks is when you give yourself permission to lead yourself with love and to feel those emotions and to allow yourself to reveal an authenticity, it provides a level of support that I could never have imagined. And I will tell you today, our team is, so our purpose is connecting people in meaningful ways. And our purpose is primarily designed to how we work, the type of work we do, etc. But I will tell you that this level of vulnerability and agreement that we will trust and we will feel and we will support each other in a way that feels uncomfortable because it feels personal has created such a depth of trust. It has made our purpose even more real, especially with our leadership team, where they're admitting when they're down, they're admitting when they're confused, they're admitting when they're scared, and they're admitting when they're happy, and that they're not guilty about laughing, and those types of things. And so I'm exceptionally grateful. Rand has been planting those seeds in me for a while, and having what I've learned through going through the IPL in particular. But I just am reminded what an incredible privilege it is, and a responsibility it is to lead people and to be your full self when you're doing that, because it's the best way to serve, and it's also the best way I've found to be bolstered myself. And I'm just going to end with I'm going to get all weepy again, because this is the type of stuff that we're receiving from our people. And so this came from one of our big, strong guys who said, "Can I work without being paid? Because I want to help fix this." And he's a soldier. We're like, well, no, you can't do that. But so he sent this note, and he said, it says, "You and the rest of the leadership team will be in my thoughts over the next 10 weeks. And I hope that even in the dark and deafening moments ahead, you are able to pause and hear the roar of all of us cheering you on. And I hope that if that roar ever starts to sound like screaming, you're able to feel a hand holding yours and know that it's the quiet encouragement of thousands of Freeman employees who are taking that exact moment to lift you up in your hearts." And, COVID has not been a blessing. I will not go there. But there have been so many blessings that we've experienced as a result. And it really is a result of, on the front end, getting in front of your culture and caring for it in a way that is authentic, and then allowing that authenticity to show up in the happy times as well as in the sad times. And so exceptionally grateful to have been able to share this with you.
Well, we are the ones who are grateful, Kerry. Thank you for your willingness to be vulnerable here about the power of being vulnerable and the strength that you're finding in this and the trust that you've put in this as a component of your leadership.
Yeah, I think what Kerry did for me in that is really connect a little bit what Dave shared last week and what Vid shared the previous week before that. Dave was talking about what behaviors might go away in the marketplace, what behaviors might be sustained, and what may be transformed. And what I also think when I hear Kerry talking is what behaviors might be emerging inside of us. And when I hear Kerry, just a deep level of authenticity and vulnerability coming out in a real transformational way, I just think, when you said, if I'm the heart of Freeman, how do I lead this business when my heart is broken? I really felt that. I was really, really powerful. And it reminds me of that quote by Rumi that says, wherever you stand, be the soul of that place, right? And that's what Vid talked about a few weeks ago, sourcing our service from the deep, our soul. And what I'm excited by, Kerry, is I've never had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with you, but I just think about how your service is going to be transformed, this new behavior that will be emerging, you coming out of this crisis. So very grateful for that, Kerry. Thank you.
I would just encourage you to continue to invest in yourself. You're only part of this community because of the care that you have for the people and the type of human being you are. And so, thank you for committing to this space, and thank you, what you do really matters. And then in the meantime, we all need to be supported too. And so that would be, kind of the other piece of, leverage each other, and it's okay to admit that you don't have it all together, and leverage your friends and those you trust as well. And I truly believe, we're all going to be changed as a result of this, right? And this is really an awesome opportunity for us to transform the world in a really good place. So thank you guys. I really appreciate your encouragement and your graciousness. So I really am grateful for you guys.